What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, guys. I know some of y'all probably awaiting the music videos. Y'all know I do a little bit of music, do that here and there. Those get blocked, so they take time. I do have some stuff coming out, but they get blocked. Some of my videos they'll post for like 2 or 3 weeks, and they still get blocked. But we here, the 3-star vagabond. We got the weirdest car culture in Sweden. I've seen a few videos before, just the car culture in Sweden. I think it was like American car show or something like that. Pretty cool cars and stuff. So we about to check this out. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Let's jump into it.
Ever since the 1960s, there's been an infamous subculture in Sweden that centers around old American cars. These people are often ridiculed and satirized, but that doesn't seem to stop these car enthusiasts from expressing their love of America.
Insane. Wow.
But that doesn't seem to stop.
Dang, I've never seen nothing like that. That's pretty
These car enthusiasts from expressing their love of American cars and American culture. Today I'm gonna have a look at Västerås Summer Meet, one of the biggest car meets in Sweden. And I'm also gonna dive into the history and the future of the subculture called Raggare.
Raggare. No, I worked for an owner. I worked for this restaurant actually called Bel Air, and he had a couple of car Bel Air Bel Airs actually. It was a car. It was a car called Bel Air, I believe. But he would host car shows, man. I was like, where do he put all these things?
Our cruising event called Power Meet started in the town of Västerås in Sweden. Thousands and later tens of thousands of people flocked to Västerås to show off their old American cars and to get drunk. Power Meet was actually the continuation of an event that started in 1978, but ever since 1984, it was held annually in Västerås. At first, the local municipality was a co-arranger of the event, but things changed in the beginning of the 2000s. The number
that looked like the car that was in Jeepers Creepers.
Arranger of the event, but things changed.
Look at that. Dang, it looked like they
in the beginning of the 2000s. The number of visitors exploded, and the number of complaints against the car meet exploded as well. This is a very family-friendly event, but Raggare isn't always known for being calm and quiet. Quite the opposite, actually. The municipality pulled out of the event, and they started to impose stricter and stricter requirements on the arranger of Power Meet, a man called Kjell Gustafsson. Kjell Gustafsson was also robbed of a large sum of money, more than 1 million Swedish krona, when he was transporting money from Power Meet 2016. After that, Kjell Gustafsson shut down Power Meet in Västerås, and that made many people unhappy. This was the start of a conflict between Power Meet and what would become Västerås Summer Meet.
History there, how all this got started. It's continuing on. That's pretty cool, though.
Decided that wasn't going to be the end of.
I think even just checking out those other ones, I think it was more of just seeing the cars. My God, 3-star actually giving us a little history of where it all, who's the people behind this. So I think that's pretty cool, man. Like I said, these cars are so unique. Of course, you don't see these cars on the road often. Every once in a while, I will see a classic car. And it's always owned by somebody older. You know, maybe they kept it that long, or maybe it's one they've been looking for, special edition. But I think it's cool. I got a Challenger 2021. So about 40 years, maybe 20 or 40 years, maybe it'll be a super classic, because I don't think they're making that style of car anymore.
Power Meet. He announced that there would be an event in Västerås in 2017. This led to a heated discussion between Kjell and Claes, and Kjell pointed out that he owned the trademark to Power Meet, so Claes could expect a letter from his lawyer. Kjell also criticized Claes for being too inexperienced and that he wouldn't be able to handle such a massive event. There was a large debate about what would happen in 2017. Would Claes arrange a new car meetup, or would Kjell arrange Power Meet in Västerås after all? In the end, Claes Brink's new event ended up being called Västerås Summer Meet, and Kjell Gustafsson moved Power Meet to the town of Lidköping. And both of these
Okay,
events
so
have coexisted ever since then.
so it's two meets. I wonder if I checked out the meet in the other town. That's what I'm thinking. I probably did. But this one, they wasn't in grass on no. I think the first one I seen, it was like more of riding. They were riding around town. It wasn't in the grass.
It's sometimes
Nothing.
called the biggest car meetup in the world,
in the
with
world?
more than 20,000 cars. Västerås summer meet
like
is
that
pretty
one.
new in comparison, and it did get a rocky start, but it still attracts around 100,000 visitors.
State Trooper.
There's also a lot of other car meetups in Sweden. American Car Show in Norrtälje and Classic Car Week in Rättvik, for
Ooh,
example,
that thing is
and
so
many
low.
more. Some of the meetups are more aimed at collectors, and some are aimed
seen
at
that one in
specific
American
brands or
Gangster.
models. And some are aimed at people who want to show
Dang. Well, that's a. What's that? There's a cartoon. Dude was in that one. It was on like Boomerang, of course, because it was the old Wacky Races or something. That looked like one of them Wacky Races cars. Right
off their
there.
cars while playing misogynic music,
Something
get drunk,
Wacky Races,
and harass
something race
women.
show.
You see, Raggare is a bit of a weird subculture. Drunk,
hold up,
some are
yeah.
aimed at collectors, and some are aimed at specific brands or models. And some are aimed at people who want to show off their cars while playing misogynic music, get drunk, and harass women. You see,
said
Raggare is a
harassment.
bit of
I heard that part. That's why I had to go back. And I said, what did he say about
a
harassment?
weird subculture. It can refer to very serious collectors of classic cars,
Man, look at
and
that one.
it can also refer to the Swedish equivalent
one's
of
so nice.
hillbillies. Let's dive a bit more.
Oh, I actually see that PT Cruiser, this gray PT Cruiser. I used to see this a lot. Probably when I was more in my teenage years. No, maybe approaching teenage years. I think I first started seeing this one maybe in 05 or 06, I believe. And this was a popular car. I don't see too many like
It can
this
also
anymore.
refer
That's
to the
crazy.
Swedish equivalent of hillbillies.
I think that's a PT Cruise. I don't know. It looked like one.
Let's dive a bit more into the history of Raggare.
History, Raggare.
In the post-World War II era, the Marshall Plan was doing wonders for Europe. The US helped Europe rebuild economically, and as a consequence, there was a lot of American influence on European countries, including Sweden.
Oh, they even got the
The
18 wheelers
US
out
was seen
there.
as a place of hope, dreams, and forward thinking, and young people in Sweden happily adopted American culture. That included clothes, cars, music,
Dodge around, blow out, everything go, cash talk. My boy selling parts.
and a lot more. The problem is that Sweden was quite a conservative country in the 1950s, and these young people who imported the greaser lifestyle from the US were diametrically opposed to Swedish values. These Swedish greasers became known as raggare. Ragg is the Swedish word for bristle, but it's also slang for picking up girls. Some believe that raggare got their name because of their rugged appearance, and some believe it's because they aggressively chased women in the same manner as American greasers. Raggare drank a lot of booze, they fought, and they had a lot of random sex. Something that's very common these days, but back then it was quite anti-Swedish. They didn't want these loud and obnoxious kids around their small Swedish towns. And that's a sentiment that lived on past the 1950s. Raggare became synonymous with rough around the edges people who drink too much and behave indecently. It's a subculture that started out extremely modern. They imported the latest American trends and the latest American cars. And then they sort of remained in that mindset with the same culture and the same cars. And that culture might have been extremely forward-thinking and modern in the 1950s, but as Sweden became more and more progressive, it didn't really keep up.
No, I think this is cool though. But now that I think about it, because in my town they usually have car shows. They haven't had car shows in a minute. And sometimes they may host them in like some towns that are smaller that are close by as well. But usually I've seen a sign. Now that I think about it, I haven't seen a sign of a car show in a long time. So maybe maybe they get something going
I'm not
rolling.
a connoisseur when it comes to American cars, or any cars at all actually, but the people at this event certainly are.
Nice
I know
color
that
right there.
Chevrolet is a classic brand
I got that speakers in the back. That's a nice color
though,
right there.
and has some of the most popular cars. And there's also a lot of Pontiacs and
Ooh.
Oldsmobiles and Cadillacs. And of course, you
right
can't
there.
forget about Ford.
Ford.
In the 1990s, there was a Swedish TV show called Byhåla, Swedish for small town, that featured two raggare called Ronny och Ragge. They had a really crappy Ford that they pronounced Ford. That show was a semi-affectionate look at the raggar culture, as it had evolved from the 1950s greaser style to the raggare of the 1980s and 90s. Gone were the 1950s hairstyles and leather jackets, and instead you found a lot of blue jeans and slightly more modern American cars. It was still all American though. Even though raggare changed over time, it seems like the American connection was quite important.
American connection. No, they really got I think maybe for them that was kind of it's that state trooper car. That's like kind of random right there with that one, but maybe because some of those even that car, like I remember seeing it when I was younger. I don't think I've seen it. I don't think I've seen a state trooper in those type of cars. Maybe have. Maybe it just depends on where you are here in the States, but it's crazy because some of these cars, I mean, not these, of course. Oh, no. Actually, this Cadillac, I grew up seeing that. I for sure grew up seeing this Cadillac. This little black truck right here. I probably know somebody that still got one. It's either black or white. Yeah, that's the crazy, man. This Cadillac, this is, when I tell you, this is a hood classic right here. I done seen some rims on this thing and everything.
Ragge was many people's introduction to raggare, and they also helped popularize the subculture. By that time, raggare had been in Sweden for more than 30 years, and the definition of the word had started to change. These days, raggare can refer to car enthusiasts who strictly deal with old American cars. But it can also refer to people who like to drink and fight and burn rubber out in the Swedish countryside. Some areas of Sweden are more populated by raggare than others, like Värmland, Dalarna and Hälsingland, for example. And all of those places are pretty rural. That's where people tinker with old cars, where they meet and hang out, and where this modern take on the subculture is especially strong. Raggare often listen to rockabilly and music from the 1950s, but the music can also be more modern. Epadunk is a music genre that became popular in Sweden around 2020, and the music features heavy bass and lyrics about sex and alcohol. Which all modern music does, come to think of it, but these songs are a lot more explicit. And speaking of music, there's someone in particular that I need to mention when talking about raggare and music.
Talking about it. I don't know who that is. I think that's cool. They got the
Can't really talk about Swedish raggare without talking about Errol Norstedt, better known as Eddie Meduza. Eddie Meduza was a composer who did rockabilly songs and a lot more. His songs were most of the time obscene and humorous, but also political and sometimes strangely poetic. He's most famous for his own songs, but he also wrote songs for other pop bands in Sweden. Eddie Meduza died in 2002 at the age of 53, but his songs are still played today. Who hasn't heard classic songs like Volvo, Runkeball and Mera Brännvin? These songs portray such themes as drinking, masturbating, and being overtaken by a bloody Volvo when driving in your classic American car. One of his songs is called Punkjävlar, Bloody Punks, because in Sweden, punks and raggare are traditional enemies, which can also be illustrated by the Swedish punk band Rude Kids, who made a song called Raggare is a bunch of eloquence like that pretty much sums up many people's opinion about raggare.
Interesting facts right there. Interesting information. Never sleep again. But no, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Dang, they got the Jeep out there. Maybe that's a regular pedestrian. I don't know.
I don't know if I painted a fair picture of Raggare or not, because it's a pretty complex
Okay, they got the
subculture.
motorcycle.
It's full of love for American cars and American culture, but it's also filled with a lot of anti-establishment themes. It's rooted in the 1950s, but it's also adopted and adapted modern trends. It's beloved by some and hated and ridiculed by others. I'm sure that, just like with any other subculture, it's full of many different types of people. People who care deeply about the 50s, and people who don't care about history at all and just want to look forward instead. People who care deeply about the community, and some people who just want to drink and fight. But I suspect that one thing that's common for all the Raggare is the love of freedom. Freedom from society, and freedom to live their lives just the way they want. That's probably something that was true for Raggare back in the 1950s, just as it's true for Raggare today. And there you have it. That was a quick look at Västerås summer meat and the Swedish subculture called Raggare. I hope you found it interesting. Like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a great day.
Okay, that was nice. That was nice. Like I said, usually when I watched the first one, it was mostly it didn't really have nobody talking or nothing. It was just showing different cars and stuff like that. But I think it's cool. Did I get to? I feel like I maybe seen one or two on the streets. I can't remember. I do remember probably seeing a old classic car when I was out in Sweden. Of course, I know I was in Stockholm, but and then again maybe I didn't. But I feel like I did. I feel like I seen a familiar car, because most of the cars out there, I can really honestly say, like, most of the cars I wasn't familiar with. You know, of course I was familiar with the brand, but there were different. There was a lot of different cars out there. I thought that was cool. You know, coming here from the States and stuff. But no, this was nice. Seeing the car culture down there and stuff like that. Like I said, we have people that have these type of cars when they host car shows and stuff. But like I said, I know a guy. He probably have a lot of land that he keep these things, the maintenance on it and stuff like that. But man, those cars back then, they're definitely different. I wouldn't mind strolling around town in one of these. That would be real cool, be real nice. But that's all I have. Y'all hit that subscribe button, send out those recommendations, and y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.